Hey, everybody. Keith Wheeler here. Right Riders. I hope everybody is having a great. It's been a while since I've done a live stream. Um, Let me know real quick if you can see me and hear me. We'll get started. Okay. Looks like you can. Okay. All right. So I wanted to do this live. Like I said, I haven't done a live in a couple years, but I wanted to do this uh, to because I keep getting a bunch of questions about the new KDP announcement, and so I wanted to cover that and just kind of go over my initial thoughts um, and go over questions you might have about it. So with that, I'm going to share my screen and okay, so the first thing the we got the email, and basically, I'm going to read this, but then I'll explain what it means. And it says, for the first time since starting print operation almost 2 decades ago, uh, we're changing the royalty rate for books priced below certain list prices, for example, less than 9.99 in the US, from 60% to 50%. These books represent a unique challenge given increasing operational costs, and change will allow us to continue offering these books while avoiding an impact to other titles. Basically, what that means is that if your book is below a certain threshold in the US, it's 9.99, then instead of getting 60%, you're going to be getting 50% royalties. And it's a different amount depending on the different marketplaces. And so there's a link in there that will tell you exactly, depending on the country and the marketplace, what that threshold is. But yeah, I mean, for all intents and purposes, that's basically what it is. They're for books that are in the US that are charging less than 9.99, that they will go from 60% royalties to 50% royalties starting on June 10th. So let me stop sharing this for a second. And so yeah, so that's the email that's getting a lot of people in an uproar, and I completely understand. I don't blame them. But what does this mean? Who does this affect? Uh, so basically, what it means is that uh, if if your like I said, if your book is below that threshold, you're going to have to make a decision. You're going to have to make a decision whether you want to increase the price of your book to be above 9.99, or if you're okay with getting a lower royalty, getting only 50% instead of 60%. That's your choice. Now, they did also announce in the same email that for standard color, they're actually reducing the printing costs on that. So, um, I mean, they're not doing it they're not reducing the price for premium, but for standard color. So depending on what kind of books you put out, that may affect you in a positive way. But it's yet to be seen how drastic of a price difference that's going to be. But yeah, so that's what it means is you need to make that decision. What is best for you and your business? Now, who this affects in general, I mean, it affects pretty much everybody. But the groups that are affected, in my opinion, the most are your children's book authors. Because there's a lot of color in the books. It's very so the printing costs are going to be higher. It's hard to price a book, um, at 14.99, especially if you're a just starting author in that particular niche, or starting author in general. It's hard for most parents to justify paying $15 for a children's book for their child, again, if they're not familiar with you as an author. Also, if you're a children's book author, you know that it's extremely competitive when it comes to pricing. And so in a market that's already price competitive, we now have to add on top of that, okay, do I do I get a lower royalty, or do I pay higher, up my price to 9.99 in the US or more, uh, just so I can keep that 60%. Another group that is going to be affected by this quite a bit actually is people who write shorter books, short stories, memoirs, and even some nonfiction authors. Many of these people, create these books. They're typically lower price due to the fact that they're a lower page count, and a lot of nonfiction authors will create like a almost like a pamphlet type of book as a lead in to get customers to know, like, and trust them, and then lead into buying higher ticket items from them and later on. An example of that is one of the clients I've worked with in the past. He was a lawyer, and he did Social Security disability specifically, and so he had me create um, for all intents and purposes, a pamphlet, if you will. I think it was probably 26, 27 pages, and he was just giving those out. But on Amazon, he did have them listed, but he had it listed at basically as low as he could, because that's not his goal. Wasn't to make money on that. So while yes, they're affected by, that they'll have to, he'll have to deal with the 50%, because the point is it's a lead magnet to get to the higher ticket items. For him, he probably doesn't care. He's probably not going to up the price of his book. But again, if you're writing short stories and things like that, it's just a lower page count. If your book is only 20 pages or 25 pages, it's hard to justify charging $10 for it. So again, you have to do that. You have to question and ask yourself, how's that going to affect your business? And the other group that is going to be affected by this, and I know they're going to be affected by it because I'm one of them, is people who create low content, no content, and even medium content books like puzzle books. Just like with children's books, there's a lot of competition there. And in some of the niches, it's honestly just a race to the bottom when it comes to pricing. And if you're pricing your books at $7.99, $6.99, and even less, it, you know, are you able to price your book at $9.99? Are people going to pay for it? Now, I will say, this isn't all doom and gloom. I'm going to tell you the pros and cons, but I will say that, like, for example, puzzle books, I definitely have niches where I charge more than $10 for my puzzle book already. So it doesn't really affect me, but it's going to affect a lot of people that are, especially if you're just starting out. And, like I said, you're in a super competitive niche. So you are racing to the bottom where, you always have to underprice the next person in order to try to get those sales. But again, that's one of the three biggest niches that I can think of that are going to be affected by it. Especially when you're doing like the no content books, where you're doing like line journals and things like that. It's hard to justify charging $10 for it, especially, if you don't have a lot of reviews, because there's not really much other than a cover that's going to differentiate your book from the next one. And so unless everybody ups their book prices, then is someone even going to pay $10 for that? Or will they just go to the local Walmart or dollar store and just buy books there? It's all going to depend on the customer. But to be clear, this isn't affecting ebook pricing. So, when I said short stories, I wasn't talking about short read. If you're writing Kindle short reads and things like that, that's not affected, because again, it's the ebook version. But if you do decide to make a print version of that, then it will be affected by this. So I do have a poll in there in the chat, going over like how much it's going to affect, if this is going to affect your business at all. And I'd love to know everybody's thoughts on that. So what are the pros and cons? The pros and cons, the way I see it, is, first of all, the first pro is, I do like that KDP gives you a link to download a spreadsheet with all of the affected book titles, including the marketplaces that are affected. So At least if you create a lot of books, I mean, I have over the years, I mean, I've over 1,000, 222 books are affected by this for me. Uh, am I going to update all of them? We'll talk about that in a second. But yeah, so that is a positive to how they're handling it, not necessarily a positive to the situation. I am trying to make a positive out of it, which is I'm using this time to go through my backlist of books and update the metadata, which is something that honestly I've been putting off. So I mean, some of the books I haven't updated in years, and so things like the keywords, sometimes book descriptions, categories, and even in some cases pricing. And I did say some cases pricing because for some of my books, depending on how they're selling and how much of a difference that royalty is going to make, I might not change the price. It might not make sense for me with the amount of sales I might lose by upping the price compared to how much royalty difference that's going to be. So again, that's something that I'm going to look at on a book by book basis. Another pro is that this will give me the push that I need to put some of my books that are not already published on other platforms to migrate them over as well. And to be clear, I'm not saying I'm taking my books off of Amazon KDP, not by any stretch. But I do have some books that are only on Amazon, only on KDP, and this will give me that push to move them over to someplace like Ingram Spark or Drafted Digital or Lulu. Uh, I've been saying for years that you can't put all your eggs in one basket, and this is just more proof of that. And so, again, it's just a little nudge that something I've been putting off. I'll do it tomorrow and just never get around to that. This is helping me, and I'm looking at that as a pro to the situation. Now, of course, there are cons, and really just one big con, and that is it's affecting people's bottom lines. And some books, and in some cases some entire publishing businesses, some of you can't necessarily afford to raise your prices, and that's something that that this is drastically going to affect. If you only publish low content, no content books, this is going to drastically affect how you work, and what prices you're going to go with. And I'm hoping, I guess this is necessarily a pro, but I'm hoping that what this will do, especially in niches like low content and no content and even medium content books, that this will help kind of reverse that whole racing to the bottom. That if everybody does bring their prices up to a more realistic, maybe not all the way up to 9.99, but something closer, that it will help everybody make a little bit more money, so that are in those niches. But again, it's going to depend on the particular books that you publish, the niches that you're in. It's even more important, I believe, to focus on niching down and not just make a book quote for everyone. Make a book for a specific niche, and if you can find a sub niche within that, a crossover, maybe two niches that that you're familiar with, and doing something that crosses over, that can make your book stand out even more. So it's going to be that much more important to niche down, to know your niches, and um, to better to basically create a better product at the end of the day. Whether it's you have to maybe do a better cover, something that's going to make your book stand out more. Um, Another thing that's kind of a con to it, that indirectly, is if if we have to charge higher for our books or get a lower royalty, this is going to affect some people's ability to run Amazon ads. Uh, so that's something, again, that you'll have to keep in mind as well. And I don't want to talk too much about Amazon ads in this video, but when it comes to ads, and I say this whenever I talk about ads, whatever you plan on spending, make sure it's something that you can afford to lose, because one, there's no real guarantees, but also, even if even if your ads do great, that KDP doesn't pay you right now. They're paying you in 60 days, whereas Amazon's going to take their ad money out, within the next billing cycle. So you need to make sure that you keep that in mind if you're doing ads. But again, this will affect some people's ability to even run ads. So again, it's something that I truly believe is going to affect virtually everyone, unless you have a book, all your books, whether it's one book or hundreds or thousands, unless everything is either all ebook or they're all print books, but they're 9.99 or higher, or depending on the marketplace you're in, then those people won't be affected, but majority of the people will be. And it's a huge reminder that, something I've been saying for years, again, that we're playing in Amazon sandbox, that they have complete say in what royalties we get, what content we can put up. And again, this is I'm not trying to scare anybody. This is not KDP bashing. Uh, I still love being on KDP. KDP or Amazon allows us to access their massive traffic to our products. And I say products because you might not just be doing books. I've got merch out there and things like that, but they allow us to do it for free. There's no price to upload to KDP or to create a KDP account. But this is a reminder that KDP and Amazon, they're not our business partners. They're a business and they're looking out for their bottom line. And so we need to do the same thing. And so the next steps that I would suggest for everyone, and I'm going to do this myself, is to let me share my screen again. And put your questions in there. I can't promise I'll be able to get around to everybody, but I will try to answer as many questions as I can. Okay, so the next steps I would suggest are, first of all, go log into KDP and have it minimize this right here. So you're going to go into KDP, and right here at the top, it tells you, changes to the royalty rates. Click on this right here, and this is a list. This will be a downloadable spreadsheet of the books of yours that will be affected, and they list the different marketplaces that are affected. So again, when you're updating the prices, don't just update the price in the US or whatever your main country is. Make sure that you update all the ones that are going to be affected. So that's the first step, is to log into KDP and download your list of affected books that can be affected by it. And then for each of those books, run the KDP royalty calculator, which is right over here, and it's also in that email. It's on KDP, and you can get it through just through the help as well. But you just go in here, you're going to put in, and I've got videos on this, but you're going to put in whether it's paperback or hardcover, the interior type, again, whether it's black and white, premium, standard color, the trim size, the marketplace that you're checking the pricing on, what the page count is, and what your list price is. And so if I did a book that was 110 pages, somebody actually messaged me this on one of the Facebook groups. So I'm just going to do exactly what they said: 8.5 by 11, 110 pages. And so if I'm currently have that at $7.99, then my current royalty right now is $1 and change. So, or I'm sorry, that's what it will be. And so right now it's $1.92. So if you're debating on whether you're going to up it to $9.99, your royalty is going to go up quite a bit. However, are your customers going to be able to pay, are going to be willing to pay that price? So again, that's something you'll need to do. So what I would do is, again, for each of these books, go into the royalty calculator, put in the information, and and for each book, go and check the different marketplaces again. So you can just click this drop down and it'll tell you the different marketplaces and what your price you want to put in for that one, and it'll tell you what your royalty is going to be. And again, go in, and if you decide to update your price, make sure you do it for all the countries and all the marketplaces. But while you're in there, the next step would be consider updating your other metadata. If you're already in there updating the price, then why not check on your keywords, check on your categories and things like that, again, to make sure that what you have there is relevant to your book. Because especially if we're messing with price, we need to make sure that our books are have the best chances of being seen. And so you want to make sure that your keywords or categories, that they are relevant to your book. And then lastly, it really comes down to honestly considering uh, whether you should have your book on other platforms as well. Again, I'm not saying just be on or go away from KDP or Amazon, but I'm saying you definitely should consider having your book in other places. Not having all your eggs in one basket. Let's see. I'm going to stop sharing. And so, yeah, so like I said, for many people, you might not be updating all your books. You might not be updating any books. And so it really is going to come down to it's not even a person by person, but a book by book basis. What for your business, what makes the most sense is the amount of money, and this is going to be something you're going to have to calculate, but is the amount of money you're going to make in that by raising the price to keep that 60%, is that worth the possible sales you may lose because your book's at a higher price? And so, like I said, there are definitely some of my books that I will not be updating the price because it is, uh, I I know, because I know that niche enough. I know what my competitors are charging, and again, many of them might be upping their price as well. So right now, I might not up it, and I might decide later on that I'm going to. But as of right now, some of the books I will not be updating because the amount of sales I'm going to lose does not justify that little bit more I'm going to make by being at 60% rather than dropping down to 50%. So again, it's unfortunately it's something that I can't just give you a quick answer like that. Yes, this is what to do. It's really going to come down to your own business and what will work best for you. And like I said, it's something that if when you're first going into it, you might want to update certain books. Know that if you make any updates in your books going forward, that they are going to be affected by that as well. So like I said, it's unfortunately it's not a one size fits all. It's going to depend on the book. It's going to depend on the niche. It's going to depend on your business model. I know that for a lot of children's book authors, like I said, especially if you're first starting out, you might not be able to justify making your books any more expensive than they already are. You may just have to see that you make less royalties per book, but maybe you'll make more sales because you're at that lower price. And again, a lot of it's going to be depending on what everybody else does. The other competition in that niche. If you don't raise your price and other people do, then now your book is lower priced. Will it look like it's an inferior product if it's the only one down at that low price, or will you get more sales because it's more inexpensive? So again, only time will tell as far as that's concerned. All right, let's see some of these questions we have in here. I was selling some Sudoku books for $6.99, but I had to bump them up to a minimum of $9.99 today after getting the message from KDP. Yeah, I mean, it goes into effect June 10th, but yeah, I mean, you'll have to. I mean, I don't know your niche. I know Sudoku books, but I don't know what sub niche you're in. If you are, but I get it. I mean, I've had books that were most of my puzzle books are not $6.99. But again, especially if you're first starting out, in a niche or just starting out in general, I get it. You need to be competitive, and it's hard to compete when you've got these big companies that are selling you know 10 puzzle books all together in a bundle for $5.99. Just don't try to compete with those. Those are not your competition. Your competition, honestly, are people that are publishing on publishing on KDP. Those are your competition, and those are the only people you should really try to mark yourself against. And I don't like using the word competition because it usually has a negative connotation, and I think that more more competition is good, as long as it's healthy competition. I don't like the whole race to the bottom price. So that's the one positive I can take of this is I'm hoping that in those niches uh, where people are just lowering the price down to as low as they can just so they can make 5 cents royalties or whatever, just so they can get extra sales. I'm hoping this will steer that in the other direction, where people will actually start kind of banding together and working together to kind of change the the customers' expectations for books that are on Amazon. I mean, if I'm searching on Amazon for even a journal, even a line journal, if I'm on Amazon, I'm probably not looking for something that's dirt cheap. If I wanted a dirt cheap one, I'd just go to the dollar store. I want something that's going to be a little bit higher quality. I want something that I can see the reviews on. I can see what people think about it. And so this whole race to the bottom has always bothered me. So that's one thing that I'm hoping this will change in a positive way. Just one book, not low content. Okay. I mean, that's good. I mean, again, it depends on the type of book, whether this is going to be affecting it or not. Good news is if it's just one book, that's only one book that you have to make updates to if you do have to. But yeah, I mean, I have written content. I've got a short read. I mean, yes, the ebook is a Kindle short read, but I also have it in print form, and that one I mean, it's definitely priced under 9.99, but I need to sit back and kind of crunch the numbers and see, does it make sense for me to up it, or will I lose will I lose so many potential sales that it would have been cheaper for me to keep it I'd have made more money if I'd kept it at the lower price at 50% royalty. So I think it's a positive gain for books already above 9.99. Yep. Low priced books have higher cost per page production costs because of setup and processing versus material costs. Excellent point. I'm part of an anthology. Sales go to animal rescue. Okay. They're going to have the increase the price, right? Yeah. You'll have to increase the price and just to be able to be donating the same amount that you were donating before at a lower price. Wanted to publish a thriller, 2-hour read, short read. Wanted to ask marketing strategy. Yeah, we can cover that in another. I don't know. I might do more lives. Like I said, I haven't done lives in years, but if you guys are interested in more lives, let me know, and I might think about doing that. I do know that I had asked previously in a poll whether doing live productivity sprints, if you will, if those would be people would be interested in that, and I got an astounding yes. So I will be doing those. I just hasn't worked into my schedule yet, but that will be coming in 2025, doing productivity sprints. But as far as like lives where live Q&As and things like that, I don't know. It would depend on what the interest is in, something like that. But you can absolutely ask me. You can send me an email at kwheelerbooks@gmail.com. You can send that to me, and or you can just comment on one of my videos and ask about marketing strategies, and I'll see what I can share with you. KDP could have chosen to raise printing costs for everyone again, but instead, I think they're making an adjustment on the less production cost efficient. Yeah, yeah. So I mean, they could have done something. I mean, it's their platform. They could have done whatever they wanted, right? They could have made a more blanket, and they've done that before, where they've increased the printing costs. This is more geared towards just like I said, just certain price points, and it's similar to what they already do with the ebooks, in that if you charge less than $2.99 for your ebook, you can only get 35%, as opposed to if you charge between $2.99 and $9.99 for your ebook, then depending on your country, then you'll qualify for the 70% royalties. So they already do something similar to that in the ebook for ebooks. Luckily, luckily for print, they haven't done drastic where it's only 30%, but they also haven't done 70% either. So yeah, it's definitely something that they could have done. And again, who's to say what they're going to do in the future? Again, this is their platform. So again, just one more reminder that we need to um, consider having our books in multiple places. And I have plenty of videos. And at the end of this one, I'll even when this goes up on on the channel, I will put a link to my playlist on publishing off of Amazon. Again, not as a negative towards Amazon, but there are other options out there. And it's just like I don't when I do stocks, I don't have all my stocks in one business, in one company. I've got it diversified. So that way, if something happens to one, it doesn't affect everything and it doesn't completely affect my business. Uh, yeah, it is Argent. Yeah, it's a painful pill for low price books, uh, but you think it overall helps the overall ecosystem. Okay, I don't necessarily disagree with that. I can definitely see how, especially in the long run, ideally, like I said, if it means people are going to start raising their prices, and and everybody can start making more money, then that would be ideal. Although then we're talking as authors and as book publishers, but then as consumers, we're when money's tight, we're able to buy less books if everything is now 9.99 or more, rather than before when I could get you know two books. I can get two puzzle books, let's say. This one's 6.99 and this one's 6.99. I can get two of them for under 15, and now two of them is going to cost me more than 20. I mean, for consumers, they're just going to have to get used to it, I guess. Okay, let's see. I'm running short on time, so I will try to speed through some of these questions. Um, There are issues with updating prices with metadata, as it may trigger a review that flags issues, such as repeating keywords in the titles that have been okay. Yeah, I mean, your book shouldn't get flagged for repeating words in your metadata. Now it will. I mean, it could get you. They might relook at your interior or things like that. Especially if you had your books published, and I've got a couple like this, where when I was publishing the book, uh, they used to accept a certain file format. Now they don't. That mainly affects ebooks though. Whereas before KDP would accept Mobi files. Now they can't. So then if I was to update that, but again, that's an ebook. But if I was updating that, then yeah, I would have to create a whole different interior. I'd have to create an EPUB version of it. But again, that doesn't have to do with print. But yeah, it can definitely trigger a review of your book in general. But in the long run, and I actually have got another video that's going to be going out about this, but I have I was just scrolling through my KDP dashboard one day, and I saw a book, one of my puzzle books, that said it was draft unavailable. And it was extremely weird because it's book 10 in a 10 book puzzle book series, and it's the only one that had that. And I reached out to KDP, and come to find out there was nothing wrong with it, and so they just published it live. Let's see. I already answered about the marketing tips. If I go from 9.99 to 11.99, then none of the markets drop to 50% royalty. That's true. That's absolutely true. Uh, it's just going to come down to uh, will your customers accept a $2 increase? Um, and if that's the case, if it would, then I guess my next question is, if if the customer's okay with a $2 increase, then why didn't you increase it before? And it might just be like me. Like I said, I've got so many books that there are ones that I haven't even thought about updating. And so this is going to help me go as a kind of kick in the butt to go in and update the metadata on books that I still have. Some books I know for a fact that I haven't even updated to the new categories system, because they just mainly those are books that weren't selling very well, so I didn't bother going in and updating them. But yeah, this will force me to do something like that, or just like I said, just leave the book up there in some cases, depending on if it's just I don't think I have any that are hot garbage, but early on in my, when I first started out, most of those books I've already unpublished because they weren't good. But yeah, this is a good opportunity to go in and just look at those. Moving the price point gains $1.20 in royalties for me and $1 for Amazon. Okay, sounds good. Um, yeah, I absolutely. Printing costs did go up in November and December, and yeah, they don't make an email about that, do they? They just do that real quietly. And yes, again, earlier in Q3 of 23. Yep. I definitely agree that people with a specifically low content books, they're going to be affected by this, and to the point where I don't really imagine, unless they have a lot of reviews, I don't imagine they'll be able to bump it up, at least not right away, to 9.99. If they're selling for 6.99, they're probably going to only be able to bump it up maybe $1, maybe two, uh, before they start seeing significant uh, sales decrease. Um, Is it worth publishing KDP short reads in 2025? The short answer to that is absolutely. Um, Pretty sure I have a video on that, but if not, I will do one. I'm actually going to be doing a video in the very near future that people have asked for, where I'm doing a Kindle short read from start to finish, all in one video. It's going to be a longer video, but it's going to be everything from the niche research to writing it to editing it, uh, publishing it, everything, keyword research. So it's going to be one video. I'm gonna I'm gonna try to do it all in one day. We'll see how that works out. But yeah, but yes, to answer your question, publishing a Kindle short read absolutely in 2025 can still work, because again, this doesn't affect ebooks. This is just print books. For those of us just starting with puzzle books and coloring books, do you think we can come in at a 9.99 plus price point if we make sure of the quality? Uh, okay, so quality, absolutely. But it's going to come down to, if you're just creating puzzle books and coloring books for quote unquote everybody, then probably not. Because if you create it for everybody, it doesn't really speak to anyone. It doesn't. There's nothing on the cover that's going to really jump out at them. But if you have a niche, which is, I've been preaching about this for years, but if you have a niche, for example, horses, if your puzzle book is all about horses, it's got word searches about horses, maybe some images about horses, then, or with horses, whatever, then you now have a niche where people will stop and see that there's a horse on the cover. Oh, I love horses. So you're speaking to them. And so when you have niches like that, then yeah, you can definitely get away with um, charging 9.99 or more. It's going to come down to doing some niche research on whatever niche you're in, seeing what the top sellers are in that particular niche. I hate saying niche this many times, but you have to see what the top sellers are charging. What that tells you, if they're selling, and you can see what the prices are, that tells you what the customers of that niche, what they're used to paying and what they're okay with paying. So if you're in one where it's super competitive and everybody's charging 6.99 or 7.99, then no, you get putting out a, doesn't matter how good your quality is, doesn't matter how good your cover is. I mean, will you still get sales at 9.99? Probably, but they're going to be few and far between, because people are going to see that everybody else is charging significantly less. And unless your book has a ton of reviews, that more than everybody else, it's going to be hard to make that price point jump. But if you, like I said, just find a niche that you're interested in, something that you're passionate about, so that something about, at least. And then that works the same for coloring books, puzzle books, really any book. I mean, I have puzzle books that in very, and I don't say this I don't say this to brag, and I don't say this as something that's going to happen to everybody, or it doesn't even happen a lot. But I do have a couple niches where I have puzzle books that are about 110 pages that I sell for 19.99. and I sell copies every single day, and multiple copies a day. So it's absolutely possible, as long as you're, like I said, you get yourself in the right niche, and you don't have to charge that much. But again, it's something that I've nurtured those those customers over years, and I didn't start out at charging $20 for a book. But this, getting to the short answer, yes, it's absolutely possible as a new, just starting out in any niche. Look at what your competitors are charging. The ones that are selling, because if they're not selling, it doesn't matter, right? But the people that are selling, what are they selling their books at? What are people willing to pay? And then you don't want to be the most expensive, but you don't want to be the cheapest either. So you want to be somewhere in the middle. And so it's absolutely possible to be able to do that and charge $9.99. And I think it's going to happen even more in the very near future, as other people in those niches are upping their prices as well. All right, I got to start wrapping up. I will keep my prints as affordable as possible, but increasing all the prices and metadata of the books will, yeah, I get it. Yeah, 35 of them. Yeah, that does suck. Yeah, I mean, I get it, but I mean, at the end of the day, the point is to get more eyes on your book and more eyes on you. Another thing to keep in mind is, we're talking about royalties, and we're talking about, how much, money we're going to make, and how much it's going to cost us now. Another way you can look at this is, if you don't increase your prices, then your books will be, um, maybe more purchased more frequently. You might not make as much money, but if you have an email list that you're putting, a link to an email list that they can sign up for inside your books, which I don't care what kind of book you do, absolutely you should have an email list. Yes, I've done it for puzzle books. Yes, I've done it for literally line journals. I have email lists. Um, then those people now become your customer. They're no longer, I mean, they're still Amazon's customer, but they're also your customer because they're on your email list. And then you can send them to your website to buy books, or you can, have them buy other things. So, if you don't want to increase your price, or in some cases you can't, depending on, the type of books you publish and your business model, if you can't afford to up your pricing, then a positive way to look at this is, it will make your book, because it's a lower price, it will make more people look at it. As far as, if it's too much lower than everybody else, then they might think it's inferior. But it will, you might get more eyes on it. You might get more sales because you're at a lower price. You're only charging $6.99 when everybody else is charging $9.99. Again, finding a way to utilize that negative as a positive. All right. So yeah, I'm about ready to wrap up. You're very welcome for the live. Let's see. Yeah, I will definitely keep you updated on the productivity sprint. I'll keep it both in the Facebook groups as well as here on the channel. But other than that, I thank everybody for coming in and for the likes. If you haven't already, if you're not already subscribed, please consider doing it. It's free, and all the cool kids are doing it. If you haven't liked this yet, please do so, because it lets YouTube know. I almost said Amazon. It lets YouTube know that more people should see this, and I definitely think more people should know about this, because some people don't check their emails all the time, so they might not have gotten that email, or they might have gotten that email, and they might have even seen some YouTubers or whatever post about it, and they have more of a negative view on it. Which, again, I'm not saying I'm thrilled about this, but I'm trying to make lemonade out of lemons. So, other than that, as always, I'm Keith Wheeler, and remember to write right. Thanks, everybody.